Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. Christmas Eve used to mean something different. Now it was just me and a quiet apartment that smelled like cinnamon and pine-scented cleaner. My name is Marion Roth. I'm 63 years old and live alone in a small walk-up in Evanston, Illinois. My husband, Jerry, passed 7 years ago, but I still lit the candles and baked his favorite spiced ham every Christmas Eve. It was one of those rituals that helped keep him close, even as the years thinned out his voice in my head. I was just placing the table setting, modest but neat, when I heard the buzzer. Daniel, always right on time, even as a kid. I buzzed them in and opened the door just as he and Vanessa stepped out of the elevator. "Hi, Mom," Daniel said, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek before brushing snow off his coat. Vanessa followed close behind, perfectly put together, not a hair out of place. She gave me a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Marion, the apartment looks lovely, so cozy." "Thanks," I said, stepping aside to let them in. "Dinner's just about ready." We sat down to eat: ham, roasted vegetables, and the rolls I always made from scratch. It was a quiet meal, mostly small talk about Daniel's new consulting job and Vanessa's work at her law firm. She had a way of steering the conversation, like a conductor controlling a symphony. Every pause was filled with a gentle question or a polished anecdote. I'd seen it before. The performance of intimacy. Daniel seemed tired, more withdrawn than usual, but smiled whenever Vanessa looked his way. About halfway through dinner, just as I was pouring more cider, Daniel said, "I hope you've had a chance to visit the cabin, by the way." I paused. "What cabin?" "The one we gifted you. The lakefront place up in Wisconsin, 2 years ago?" He said it like he was reminding me about a sweater I'd misplaced. I put the pitcher down slowly. "Daniel, I don't know what you're talking about." He frowned. "Come on, Mom. The birthday surprise?" Vanessa handled all the paperwork. My eyes shifted to Vanessa. Her smile froze for a beat, just a fraction too long, before returning. "Oh," she said brightly. "I could have sworn we talked about this. It must have been such a busy time. There was so much going on then." "No," I said, voice firm. "No one ever told me I owned a cabin." There was a flicker, a tiny twitch at the corner of her mouth, a glance toward Daniel that was just a little too fast. "Maybe it was sent in the mail and got missed," she said. "You know how things get around the holidays." But my stomach turned. I had spent my career examining financial statements and sniffing out inconsistencies. This didn't feel like a mistake. "I check my mail every day," I said. Nothing came. Daniel looked confused now, rubbing his forehead. "I thought you'd been going up there. I remember signing the papers with Vanessa." She patted his hand gently. "I'll look into it after the holidays. Maybe the title office forgot to file something." I didn't say anything, just watched her closely. Her hands were still, too still, and her smile, that perfectly polished smile, had slipped. There was something in her eyes that wasn't surprise. It was calculation. And just like that, the warmth drained out of the evening. I excused myself to clear the plates, my mind spinning. Something was very wrong, and I wasn't going to let it slide. The apartment felt hollow after they left. I stood at the sink, rinsing dishes that barely had a dent in them. Daniel and Vanessa had only stayed an hour, maybe less, and not once did Daniel ask me if I was okay after that strange moment at the table. He just took Vanessa's word like it was scripture. That hurt more than I expected. I sat down on the couch and stared at the blinking lights on the tiny fake tree in the corner. Jerry would have hated that tree. He always insisted on the real thing, even after his back got bad. Every December, he'd come home with a crooked pine from some lot near the train station, smile covered in snow, eyes bright. He wasn't the most affectionate man, but he showed love and structure, in the way he never missed a bill or a birthday. He was a checklist man. Me, I was the one who knew when things didn't add up. After he passed, Daniel became my focus. I tried not to smother, but I know I hovered sometimes. I just didn't want to lose another person I loved. And then there was Vanessa. I remember the first time I met her. Daniel brought her to a 4th of July cookout, all sharp heels and white linen pants. She shook my hand like I was interviewing her. "Mrs. Roth," she said, all crisp and rehearsed. "It's wonderful to finally meet you." Not nice to meet you, but finally. As if she'd already assumed her place in the family. That first year, she was always offering to help. "Let me take care of your insurance renewal," she said once. "Just forward the login. I'll simplify it for you." It sounded harmless. She knew I used paper still. She even called it endearing. Then it was the phone bill. Then my Medicare paperwork. Little things. I let her. At the time, I thought it was her way of including me. Now I wasn't so sure. I remembered the time my cell service got suspended for no reason. She told me it was a glitch and fixed it in 5 minutes. Another time, a magazine subscription showed up in my name. One I never signed up for. Just junk mail, Vanessa had said, tossing it before I even looked at it. And now a whole cabin? I thought about the way Daniel looked at me tonight. Like maybe I was forgetful, maybe a little slow. That stung more than anything. He used to think I knew everything. I pulled the quilt tighter around my shoulders. Something wasn't adding up. And for the first time in years, I wasn't sure if my son saw me clearly anymore, or if someone had been slowly convincing him not to. The next morning, I pulled out the filing bin I kept wedged behind the armchair. It hadn't been touched in months, maybe longer. A lifetime ago, I was a forensic accountant who could follow a paper trail through corporate lies and shell companies. Old habits die hard. I still saved every receipt, every statement, every form. Even the things no one else would bother keeping. I started thumbing through the folders. Tax returns, health insurance, bank statements. Then, near the bottom, I found it. A plain white envelope, unopened, with a faded postmark. Lakeside, Wisconsin. Post dated early July, around my birthday. I held it for a long moment. I didn't remember getting this. Didn't remember seeing it at all. The return address was from a small legal office. I finally tore it open and unfolded the papers inside. My hands didn't shake, not yet, but my breath caught when I saw the top line. Quitclaim deed. Transfer of ownership. It named me, Marion Roth, as the new legal owner of a property in Burnett County, Wisconsin, a lakeside cabin on Eagle Path Road. I stared at the signature. Mine, or what was supposed to be mine. My eyes scanned the page like they used to in the old days. When I was called in to catch embezzlers and liars hiding behind fake receipts, I saw it immediately. The pen pressure was wrong. Too light. Too uniform. My real signature had muscle memory in it. A rhythm. This one was shaky in places and too neat in others. The M didn't hook right. The loop in the R was wrong. And then there was the notary seal. Out of date. From a clerk I remembered had retired years ago. Sloppy. Rushed. Someone thought I wouldn't look closely. Someone counted on me being too old, too trusting, or too distracted. I folded the papers and slid them back into the envelope. This wasn't just a mistake. This was theft. Deliberate, calculated. Vanessa's voice echoed in my mind. Maybe something got lost in the mail? She already knew I wouldn't question it. She'd built that trust up for years, like scaffolding. Well, that scaffolding just came crashing down. I got up, set the envelope on the table, and reached for my phone. I knew someone who might still be in the business, someone who could help trace where the lies began. It was time to follow the paper trail, and this time, I wasn't letting it go cold. The drive to Ray Phelps's place took just under 2 hours, most of it through bare trees and long stretches of icy road. He lived in a converted farmhouse west of Madison, tucked behind an old grain silo and a mailbox with no name, the kind of place people didn't find unless they were invited. Ray had been my partner on a handful of nasty audits back in the day. We hadn't talked in over a decade, but I knew he'd answer when I called. People like us didn't forget each other, not after the things we'd seen. He opened the door before I even knocked, gray beard grown wild and a flannel shirt hanging loose over a thermal. "You look exactly the same," he said, squinting at me like I was a ghost. Maybe a little more dangerous. "I need your brain," I said. "And your internet." He chuckled and stepped aside. "Come on in. Coffee's already on." We sat at his kitchen table, still covered in old receipts, 2 laptops, and a stack of local newspapers. I laid out the deed, the envelope, and a printed scan of the forged signature. He didn't say anything at first, just examined the notary seal under a magnifier. "You're not crazy," he said finally. "This is fake. Sloppy, too. Whoever did this didn't think you'd look." "She didn't," I said. "Vanessa, Daniel's wife." He raised an eyebrow but didn't ask, just pulled one of the laptops toward him and started typing. "I need to know who really owns the cabin, and where the money's going." He worked in silence for 10, maybe 15 minutes, a soft clacking of keys and the occasional grunt. Then he turned the screen so I could see. "It was transferred into your name, yes, but not for your benefit." He pulled up a document linking the property to an LLC called Canopy Trail Holdings, registered in Delaware, clean on the surface, but tied to an account receiving regular deposits. "Who's funding it?" He leaned back, arms crossed. The money's being funneled in monthly from another shell account owned by Elaine Warren. That name mean anything to you? I sat up straight. That's Vanessa's cousin. She came to the wedding. Ray nodded slowly. She's been using the cabin as a weekend retreat. Multiple check-ins on location data, groceries, gas charges nearby, all linked to her card. My stomach twisted. And Daniel? No signs he's involved. His name doesn't appear on anything. Either he's totally in the dark or she's kept him that way. I stared at the screen. It was all there. The property, the trail, the laundering. I'd seen this pattern before. Identity manipulation through legal instruments, set up just quiet enough to slide under the radar. Ray closed the laptop gently. This isn't a casual lie, Marion. It's a coordinated scheme, and your daughter-in-law's right in the middle of it. I nodded once, slowly. I want everything, Ray. I want the whole map. He smiled. Then let's get to work. 2 days later, I drove up to Lakeside and walked into the local real estate office under the name Judith Sloan. I wore a navy windbreaker, jeans, and a pair of prescription sunglasses I hadn't touched in years. The front desk receptionist handed me a clipboard. You looking for something seasonal or full-time? Full-time, I said, keeping my voice soft, preferably something near the lake. Maybe something a little secluded. They passed me off to a realtor named Kylie, all smiles and blonde curls and clunky bracelets. She handed me a brochure. Actually, there's a great cabin that just came off the rental market. Might be exactly what you're looking for. Oh? I asked, trying to sound casual. Is the owner selling? Not yet, she said, tapping on her tablet. It's technically owned by a family trust, but it's been used privately. Very hush-hush. I actually handled the lease myself. My pulse picked up. Do you know who coordinated it? I asked, still pretending to flip through listings. Kylie shrugged, distracted. Some attorney from Chicago, Vanessa. Something sharp woman. Gave really specific instructions about privacy. Everything had to go through her. Didn't even want the husband involved. I looked up slowly. Husband? She nodded. Yeah, Daniel, I think. She said he travels a lot. Was very clear that she didn't want him looped in on anything. Said it would confuse things. The air went still for a moment. So Vanessa hadn't just forged my name and funneled the cabin to her cousin. She'd locked Daniel out entirely. She kept him distracted with work, used his name where it looked good, and left him in the dark the rest of the time. Kylie went on talking, mentioning a remodeling crew and a couple of high-end upgrades to the kitchen, but I barely heard her. I was stuck on one word. Control. This wasn't just about money. Vanessa had been planning this for a long time, laying track under Daniel's nose. Using me as cover, hiding behind my name and history to funnel assets into a setup she never expected anyone to question. But I was questioning it now. I thanked Kylie, told her I'd be in touch, and walked briskly back to my car. Once inside, I pulled out my notebook and jotted down everything I could remember. Dates, names, phrases. I had what I needed. Vanessa wanted this to stay quiet. She wanted everyone confused, compliant, and looking the other way. Too bad. I wasn't confused. I wasn't scared. And I sure as hell wasn't done. I set the table for 3. Nothing fancy. Just pot roast, mashed potatoes, and apple pie. The kind Daniel always loved as a boy. I even used Jerry's old cast iron pot. It felt right to bring a bit of him into the room tonight. This wasn't about nostalgia. It was about clarity. Vanessa arrived first, a bottle of wine in hand and that flawless, polite smile. Marion, this smells divine. Daniel trailed behind, loosening his collar. Smells like Christmas Eve in here. Hope you're both hungry, I said calmly. Let's sit. We made small talk through the first half of the meal. Weather, work, a new client of Daniel's that Vanessa described as impossibly high maintenance. I nodded along, timing each course like I used to in the old audit rooms. Let them get comfortable, let them drop their guard. When dessert came out, I reached under the table and clicked a small digital recorder. Then I set it on the table between us. Vanessa blinked. What's that? I looked her dead in the eye. A conversation you might remember? I think Daniel should hear it. I hit play. The sound quality was rough, but the voices were clear. Vanessa's voice, confident, clipped, unmistakable, crackled through the speaker. Marion still thinks she owns that place. She never even saw the deed. Honestly, Elaine and I could have stamped it in crayon, and she wouldn't have noticed. Old school types never check. Daniel's fork froze midair. Then came laughter. 2 women, Vanessa and someone else, Probably Elaine. She thinks it's her birthday gift. Vanessa scoffed on the recording. I didn't even bother mailing her the full packet, just enough to keep her quiet. I pressed pause. Silence filled the room. Vanessa's lips parted, but no words came out. Daniel looked from me to her, back to me again. Is this real? His voice was hoarse. I slid a folder toward him. Printouts from Ray's findings, screenshots of the LLC trail, a copy of the forged deed. Real enough for court. Vanessa reached for the wine glass but stopped midway, hand trembling slightly. I can explain, she said finally. This got out of hand. I was just trying to manage things. Your mom wasn't what? I interrupted. Capable? Attentive enough to notice her own name being used in a crime? Vanessa's eyes darted to Daniel, pleading. You know how your mom can be. She leaves things to pile up, and I was just trying to help. Daniel didn't say a word. He pushed back from the table, staring at the recorder like it had personally betrayed him. Then he looked at her. Not confused, not angry, just hollow. You forged her signature? He asked, barely audible. Vanessa opened her mouth, then closed it again. I stood. You didn't help this family, Vanessa. You stole from it. And for once, she had no performance to offer. No clever words, no practiced charm, just silence. The trap had snapped shut. Vanessa stormed out without her coat. The door slammed so hard the walls shook, but neither Daniel nor I moved. He sat slouched at the table, eyes unfocused, fingers laced tight like he was trying to keep from unraveling. I cleared the plates in silence and poured him a glass of water. He didn't touch it. She played me, he finally said. His voice was hoarse, distant. I thought she was protecting you. I sat across from him, hands folded. She was protecting herself. The rest was window dressing. He looked down. I should have seen it. The way she kept me out of things, made excuses, handled paperwork I never asked her to touch. I didn't interrupt. He needed space to say it out loud. She made me feel like I was just busy, like it was easier to let her handle it. I trusted her. I know, I said quietly. So did I. He let out a shaky breath, more shame than anger. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't believe you when you said something felt off. You weren't supposed to, I said. She built it that way. He nodded slowly, wiping his face with both hands. What happens now? I'm pressing charges, I said, and I already contacted an attorney. His eyes widened. You're really doing it? Yes, her and Elaine both. Ray's helping with the forensic evidence. Everything's backed up. Daniel nodded, but I could see the guilt settling in his shoulders like weight. What do you need from me? I need you to tell the truth if it comes to that, I said, and I need you to take a hard look at what letting someone else lead your life has cost you. He nodded again, slower this time. The next morning, I met with Angela Morris, a no-nonsense attorney with a sharp suit and sharper instincts. She didn't blink when I showed her the forged deed, the trail of dummy accounts, or the LLC under my name. This isn't just elder fraud, she said. It's layered identity theft. You've got a strong case. Ray sent over his files later that day. Metadata logs, transfer histories, audio transcripts. I had everything I needed. I'd spent most of my life protecting others. My husband, my son, my clients. But this time, I was reclaiming something for myself. Vanessa thought I'd roll over. That age made me slow, and grief made me soft. She miscalculated. I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The verdict came in on a Wednesday morning, guilty on all counts. Vanessa and Elaine were both convicted of identity theft, wire fraud, and conspiracy. The courtroom had been quiet when the judge read the decision, but I didn't feel triumph, just a strange, steady stillness, like breathing after holding it too long. Weeks later, I finally drove to the cabin, the real one, the one I now legally owned. The house sat nestled between two tall birches, a modest A-frame with a narrow dock stretching toward a quiet lake. I stood in the gravel drive for a long moment before going inside. The key clicked easily in the lock. The interior was crisp and modern, exactly Vanessa's style. White furniture, throw pillows with fake motivational quotes, pristine shelves lined with unused cookbooks. It felt more like a showpiece than a home. I walked through each room slowly, bag in hand. I didn't want to touch anything. The house smelled like lavender-scented cleaner, and there were framed stock photos in every room, not a single real memory in sight. In the guest bedroom, I found a pile of mail addressed to Elaine Warren Temporary, most of it unopened. I started packing that day. Not everything, just the things that didn't belong. The framed Live, Laugh, Love sign, the unnecessary wine fridge, the boxes of brand new beach towels with tags still on. I didn't smash anything. I didn't scream. I cleared the space the way I cleared data in a fraud audit, cleanly, without emotion, one piece at a time. By the second afternoon, the house was nearly empty. I left a few pieces behind: a chipped ceramic mug, a handmade bird ornament I found stuffed in the back of a drawer. Real things, honest things. Daniel showed up on the third day. He pulled into the driveway with a little sapling in the back of his truck. "Thought we could plant something," he said. We chose a spot near the back deck and worked in silence. When we were done, we sat on the steps, both a little dirt-stained, both a little unsure. "This place feels weird," he admitted. "I keep expecting her to walk in." "I know," I said, "but it's ours now, and it's going to take time to make it mean something new." He looked over at me. "Thanks for not giving up on me." "I almost did," I said, "but I'm glad I didn't." We watched the sun dip behind the trees. A breeze rippled across the lake. The cabin still held ghosts, but now it held space too. Room to rebuild, room to begin again. The lake was still that morning, like glass stretched between the trees. I sat on the porch, hands wrapped around a chipped blue mug, steam curling up into the crisp fall air. The sapling Daniel and I planted was taller now, a few golden leaves clinging to its thin branches. It swayed gently in the breeze, defiant and alive. 1 year had passed. Vanessa and Elaine were both serving time. The trial had dragged through the summer, but the evidence was airtight. Angela had seen to that, with Ray's digital forensics mapped like a war plan. When the verdict came down, I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate either. I just breathed. Fully. Daniel came by often now, not out of guilt, but something quieter: effort. He helped fix the back fence in spring, painted the porch rails in June. We didn't talk about Vanessa anymore, not directly. But every visit, every cup of coffee shared at this table said something without needing words. In town, I'd started teaching a financial literacy course at the community center on Wednesdays. Nothing fancy, just the basics. How to read a bank statement, how to detect a phishing scam, how to say no when your niece's boyfriend just needs help getting a business off the ground. Most of the attendees were women like me, retired, alone, tired of feeling behind. One woman cried when I showed her how to set up two-factor authentication on her bank account. Another told me I should have been a teacher long ago. I didn't correct her. I hosted my first neighborhood potluck 2 weeks ago. The kitchen still smelled faintly like chili and cornbread. It wasn't polished like Vanessa's setups. No charcuterie boards or candles, but it was real. People laughed here. They brought folding chairs and plastic containers and stories about old jobs and grandkids and the raccoons that kept raiding their trash. The cabin had changed, not just in how it looked, but in how it felt. It didn't hum with secrets anymore. It exhaled. Daniel pulled up around 10. He had coffee and a box of warm cinnamon rolls. "You're really leaning into the lakeside lifestyle," he teased, handing me one. I smiled. "Told you I'd make this place mine." He looked out at the water. "You did more than that, Mom?" We sat in the quiet, watching ducks skim across the surface. "I didn't know you were this strong," he said, almost to himself. I took a bite of the roll and shrugged. "You weren't supposed to, not until I needed to be." He smiled, eyes glassy but proud. The past was still there, but it didn't grip me anymore. I'd faced it, stripped it bare, and built something honest in its place. The cabin was mine now, not just on paper, in truth, in peace, in purpose.